Hey, I'm Evelyn Hart. Welcome back to my little corner of the world. I'm 82 years old now, and after living through so many years of chasing responsibilities, paying bills, worrying about money, and trying to build a stable life, I've realized something important. Some of the most valuable things in life can't actually be bought. And strangely enough, I didn't fully understand that until I got older. Because when you're young, you think happiness will finally arrive once you earn enough money, own enough things, or achieve enough success. But life has a quiet way of teaching you what truly matters. Especially after loss, aging, loneliness, love, and time begin changing your perspective. And honestly, some of the richest moments of my life had nothing to do with money at all. So tonight, I just want to talk with you quietly about the things that matter more than wealth, the things I wish more people protected before it's too late. And before we begin, thank you truly for all the kindness and love you've shown me here. If you're new to this little community, I'd love for you to stay by subscribing. And if you think someone out there might need these words today, maybe share this video with them too. You know, when I was younger, I truly believed that money would solve almost everything. I thought if I could just feel financially secure, then I'd finally relax, finally breathe deeply, finally feel safe. And to be fair, money does help with many things in life. It helps you survive. It helps you care for your family. It gives comfort, stability, choices. I would never pretend otherwise. But what nobody really tells you when you're young is that peace and money are not always the same thing. I've met people with beautiful homes who couldn't sleep peacefully at night. I've met wealthy people who sat in silence at dinner tables because nobody in the family truly talked anymore. I've met people who spent their whole lives building success, only to realize they barely knew their own children once the working years were over. And I've also met ordinary people with very little money, who laughed deeply, loved fully, and carried a kind of warmth that made every room feel safe. Age changes the way you see these things. At 82, I no longer look at people and wonder how much they own. I notice how gently they speak to others. I notice whether they listen when someone is hurting. I notice whether they seem calm inside themselves. Because after enough years, you begin realizing that emotional peace is a kind of wealth too, maybe even the rarest kind. I remember one winter many years ago. Money was tight, and life felt uncertain. The heater in our old house barely worked properly, and I spent most evenings wrapped in blankets while cooking soup that stretched longer than it probably should have. At the time, I worried constantly. I worried we weren't doing enough, earning enough, planning enough. But when I think back to that period now, strangely, what I remember most clearly isn't the stress. I remember the sound of laughter in the kitchen. I remember warm bowls of soup shared slowly at the table. I remember sitting near the window watching snowfall while someone softly hummed an old song nearby. And isn't that something strange about life? The moments that stay in your heart are rarely the expensive ones. Nobody sits at the end of their life replaying the memory of buying another television or upgrading to a nicer car. But people remember how someone made them feel. They remember kindness during difficult years. They remember long conversations, familiar voices, shared meals, small moments that felt ordinary at the time, but later became priceless. That's one thing aging teaches you very clearly. Ordinary life is not ordinary at all. Sometimes I think people spend so much time racing toward happiness that they completely miss it while it's quietly happening around them. I used to do that too. I'd rush through dinner because there were dishes to clean, rush through conversations because there was work waiting tomorrow, rush through peaceful afternoons because my mind was already worrying about next week. But now, at this age, I sit differently with life. I notice things. I notice how comforting it feels when sunlight rests softly on the floor for a few quiet minutes. I notice the sound of birds outside the window. I notice the way tea tastes better when you aren't distracted. I notice how meaningful it feels when someone asks, "How are you really doing?" and genuinely waits for the answer. Slowing down changed my understanding of happiness. For many years, I thought fulfillment came from achieving more. Now, I think real fulfillment often comes from finally learning how to appreciate enough time, enough love, enough peace, enough presence to actually experience your own life while you're living it. And I'll tell you something else I learned. Health becomes incredibly valuable as you age. More valuable than many people realize when they're younger. When your body is young, you assume it will always cooperate with you. You assume there'll always be more time later to rest, to care for yourself, to slow down. But age humbles you gently. At 82, I understand that waking up and feeling physically well enough to enjoy a simple walk, that itself is a blessing. Being able to breathe comfortably, cook your own meal, sit outside, laugh without pain for a little while. These things become deeply meaningful. There are wealthy people sitting in enormous houses who would give away every expensive possession they own just to feel healthy again. And yet when we're younger, we sacrifice our health so casually sometimes. We overwork ourselves, ignore exhaustion, live in stress constantly, push our bodies beyond kindness. I wish more people understood earlier that your body is not a machine meant only for productivity. It's your home. And peace inside your own body matters more than impressing strangers who will forget you anyway. One of the saddest things I've noticed over the years is how lonely modern life has quietly become. Everyone seems connected all the time, yet emotionally far away from one another. People sit together while staring at phones. Families eat without talking. Friends are physically present but mentally somewhere else. And meanwhile, hearts are starving for real connection. At my age, I can tell you with complete honesty, meaningful relationships matter far more than possessions ever will. The people who make you feel safe emotionally, the people who sit beside you during hard seasons, the people who call just to hear your voice, those people become treasures later in life. I don't remember every gift I ever received, but I remember the friend who held my hand during a frightening hospital visit. I remember neighbors bringing food during stressful times. I remember laughter so hard that tears came out of our eyes over absolutely nothing important. That's the real richness of life. Not luxury, not status, not applause from strangers. Just human connection. Real human connection. You know, there's a quiet sadness that sometimes happens when people spend their entire lives trying to arrive somewhere. They keep thinking peace exists one promotion away, one purchase away, one achievement away. Then suddenly decades pass, and they realize they postponed their own happiness, waiting for a future that never fully arrived. I think many people are exhausted because they're constantly chasing a version of life that looks successful from the outside, while quietly neglecting the inside. But inner peace requires attention too. You have to protect it carefully. Sometimes that means saying no more often. Sometimes it means spending less time around people who drain your spirit. Sometimes it means forgiving yourself for not becoming everything you once imagined. And sometimes it simply means sitting quietly for a while and remembering that your worth was never supposed to depend entirely on productivity. At 82, I no longer admire people simply because they're busy. I admire people who remain kind despite hardship, people who stay gentle in a harsh world, people who still notice beauty, people who make others feel seen. That kind of presence feels rare now and deeply valuable. I think one reason aging changes your heart so much is because time stops feeling endless. When you're young, you assume there'll always be another year to call someone back, another season to slow down, another chance to spend time together. But eventually, you understand that life is fragile, not in a frightening way, just in a truthful way. And truth has a way of making you appreciate simple things more deeply. I remember sitting on a porch years ago beside someone I loved dearly. Neither of us was saying much. There was no grand conversation happening, just quiet companionship, the sound of wind moving through trees, two people sharing peaceful silence together. At the time, it seemed like such a small moment. Now, I understand it was actually one of the richest moments of my life. That's the thing about memories. The meaningful ones rarely announce themselves while they're happening. They arrive quietly, softly, like life whispering, "Pay attention, this matters." I think younger people sometimes feel pressure to constantly achieve something extraordinary. But honestly, most of life is lived in ordinary moments. Making coffee, folding laundry, driving home, talking at the kitchen table, walking beside someone you care about. And if you learn how to be fully present for those ordinary moments, life becomes much more beautiful. I wish more people understood that happiness is often quieter than they expect. It's not always excitement. Sometimes it's simply calm. Sometimes it's relief. Sometimes it's sitting in a peaceful room without anxiety racing through your chest. Sometimes it's knowing the people you love are okay. Sometimes it's feeling emotionally safe enough to finally rest your mind. That kind of peace cannot be purchased, and yet it's worth more than almost anything. You know what else becomes important as you age? Kindness. Not performative kindness, not politeness for appearances. Real kindness, gentleness, patience, the ability to make another person feel less alone. At this age, I've learned that people rarely remember your accomplishments as much as they remember how you treated them during ordinary moments. Did you listen? Did you make them feel judged or understood? Did your presence bring calm or tension? These things matter more than people realize. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give another human being is simply making them feel emotionally safe for a little while. I think that's why small acts of love become so meaningful later in life. Someone checking in on you, someone remembering your favorite soup, someone sitting beside you during difficult days without trying to fix everything. Love often looks very simple when you remove all the noise around it. And maybe that's why aging can actually make life feel emotionally clearer. You stop confusing attention with love. You stop confusing success with fulfillment. You stop confusing busyness with purpose. You begin understanding yourself more honestly. At least, that's what happened to me. These days, my happiest moments are incredibly simple. A peaceful conversation, a slow afternoon, a familiar song playing softly in another room, fresh air through the window, hearing laughter nearby, feeling grateful for another ordinary day. And I know some people might hear that and think it sounds small, but small things become enormous when you truly learn how to see them. There's a kind of emotional maturity that only arrives after living long enough to realize life was never meant to be a nonstop performance. You don't have to constantly prove your value to deserve rest, love, joy, or peace. You're allowed to slow down. You're allowed to choose softness. You're allowed to step away from endless comparison. Because comparison steals so much joy from people. Someone will always own more, earn more, achieve more, but none of that guarantees peace inside the heart. And at the end of life, inner peace matters tremendously. I think many people secretly believe they'll finally start living once everything becomes perfect, but life never fully becomes perfect. There will always be unfinished tasks, worries, uncertainty, bills, problems to solve. So if you keep postponing joy until everything is flawless, you may accidentally postpone joy forever. That realization changed me deeply. Now I try to let life be imperfect while still allowing myself to experience gratitude. I let simple moments count. I let conversations matter. I let stillness matter. I let love matter. And honestly, I've never felt richer emotionally than I do now. Not because I own more, but because I finally understand what deserves my attention. Time deserves it. Health deserves it. Peace deserves it. People deserve it. And your own soul deserves it too. Before getting older, I thought strength meant enduring everything silently. But now I think true strength often looks softer than that. It looks like asking for help when needed. It looks like being emotionally honest. It looks like forgiving yourself for being human. It looks like resting without guilt. It looks like choosing a peaceful life over a performative one. There's wisdom in softness that many people don't discover until much later. And if I could sit beside my younger self now, I think I would hold her hand gently and say, "You don't need to spend your whole life proving your worth. Slow down. Look around. Your life is already happening." Because that's the heartbreaking thing sometimes. People wait so long for real life to begin that they miss the beautiful life quietly unfolding in front of them every single day. The cup of coffee growing cold while someone you love talks to you, the laughter echoing from another room, the peaceful drive home after a difficult day, the comfort of familiar routines, the relief of being understood. These moments feel small while we're living them, but later, they become the memories that warm us. And maybe that's why I wanted to share all this with you. Not to tell you money doesn't matter at all, because of course survival matters, stability matters, security matters. But beyond a certain point, what the human heart truly longs for is much deeper than material success. We long for peace, connection, meaning, belonging, love that feels safe, moments that feel real. And the older I get, the more convinced I become that a calm heart is one of the greatest treasures a person can have. So if life has been moving too fast lately, maybe this is your gentle reminder to pause for a moment. Call someone you miss. Sit outside for a little while. Eat slowly. Notice the people around you. Protect your health. Protect your peace. And don't wait for some distant version of success before allowing yourself to appreciate your life. Because one day, the ordinary moments you almost ignored may become the most precious parts of your story. And trust me, from 82 years of living, those quiet little moments are often worth far more than money ever was.